Greetings, Star Citizens. Welcome to Flight Deck. This is a weekly podcast about Star Citizen and other gamer culture topics. I'm your host, Link Static MDK, and with me, as always, is Paper Thin.
Hey,
Today's topics, we're going to be covering the Galactic Guide, the latest Arena Commander patch that came out, as well as some of the other info that's come out about ships and new unveilings that are talked about in the latest episode of 10 for the Chairman. So let's get started with the first item, the Galactic Guide GNP. This was something that was featured on the main website, so hopefully everybody got a chance to check it out. What were your thoughts on it, Paper Thin?
I thought it was kind of neat. It's a new, corporation that we have making stuff. They only listed two things that they're focused on right now, which is sensors and specific types of engines. It's just kind of developing the lore further, which I like. And it's kind of a neat corporation in a way. It's a corporation that was formed by four different sectors that wanted to compete with some of the more centralized UE corporations and stuff. And so they make sensors. In fact, their sensor suite is the one that's in the Hornets, and and then their engines are for freelancers and starfarers.
Well,
So
yeah,
that was cool.
I thought it was particularly interesting that they go out of their way not to build any types of weapons, too. Like, that's a big
Right.
thing for the company, is we don't make weapons. So, I don't know, that's kind of interesting that you have a conglomerate that's built between all these various places and I wonder if there's going to be like a lot of missions that you can then run for this corporation, like, oh, you have to ferry cargo from this planet of the corporation to this planet where we put it together and make this, or something like that.
Right. I wouldn't be too surprised if you come across some jobs that are legitimate and are pretty low risk.
Well, I
You
don't
make
know,
a
because aren't these supposed to be like kind of outer rim planets, planets that are like out there? So I wonder if like there's going to be a lot more pirate activity out there then too.
Yeah, that could be actually. It's hard to say. That's a good point.
I mean, yeah, I'm hoping all I want is for us to have an escort mission where we get attacked by pirates and we kill them all and take their ships. That's all.
Well, if those jobs happen for this company, I will gladly take them.
I think that yeah, anytime you can kill somebody and take their ship, it's a good day.
Definitely.
So we had the 61 million four ship variant poll that came out this week too. It was interesting. I don't know. I'm at the point where I kind of feel like we got enough of the different types of ships now, and I just want to see them implemented. I don't really care so much about even more ships being added before we've got all the ones that have been announced and are out there. You know what I mean?
Right. I know what you mean, and I think, maybe fortunately or unfortunately, I don't think the ship variant increase is going to stop anytime soon, because I would assume the way it works is they've just got a team that's solely, focused on making new ships, and that's all they
Right.
do. So, you can't really have them all of a sudden just kind of up and move over and be like, oh, we're going to help out with the persistent universe now. It
Well,
really doesn't work that way.
and usually
So,
in software development, you don't really save a lot of time when you bring a lot of new people in because you have to spend, first off, the majority of the time for the people that were working explaining what's going on to the new people, and yeah, it doesn't really
right,
save them time to switch them over. I
right.
I don't know. I, on the one hand, I'm like, oh, I want there to be thousands of types of ships and such variety you can't possibly ever, own them all and that type of thing. On the other hand, it's like I just want to play.
Right.
I want all the ships that are out there to be out there and player tested and balanced, etc. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'd much rather have that. I mean, I'd much rather have more ships available, to play an arena commander than just keep getting new ships right now. When the game comes out, though,
Oh,
I would love to see just hundreds and hundreds of different ships that are available.
yeah, it'll be like Flight Deck episode 99, and I'm sitting here complaining that there aren't enough variety of ships or something, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's mark this one and
Mark this one. This is the day that you complain there were too many ships. You fool. How dare you? Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and then
Well,
there's
let's talk
also
about the ships. We should talk about the ships that we got here.
yeah.
You know, so there's a couple interesting ones I thought. The Drake Dragonfly, which is like a motorcycle in space. It sounded like you just
Yeah,
kind of
I guess. I mean, it's a weird ship, but it also sounds like a high-end, cool, custom built, sports car style ship as well. Like
right.
I don't know how to describe it. I think motorcycle is fine.
Yeah, maybe like a a crotch rocket motorcycle. Something that you're
Yeah,
gonna get yourself killed in, but goddamn, you're gonna have a lot of fun doing it.
a ship you fly by and everybody's like, it's not a Harley.
Right, exactly. The next one was the Aegis Terrapin, which sounded like it was just a really heavily armored uh, fighter.
Yeah, and
So
I don't know. Like the way it read to me is, oh, it's a space superiority, but at the same time, it's not as like maneuverable. It's more weapon focused, kind of like the B-wing from X-wing Alliance and all that, or the TIE Defender maybe. But
yeah, well,
TIE Defender is a bad analogy because that ship was just good at everything.
it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, if it's kind of like a B-wing, then I might be interested in it. It
right.
said apparently it's going to be good amount from private miners too, because it has like more storage space or something, or
Huh.
some of it can be converted into storage. So
That
that could be interesting.
yeah, it could be like a nice cross between a transport and a fighter then if it is like that
Yeah.
intermediate stage where you're like, well, I want maneuverability but I don't want to go to a freighter and I don't want to fly around in a fighter and yeah, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
We'll call it
Well,
a light freighter. There we go. Yeah.
right. The next one that was up there was the Anvil Hurricane, which was just something that just had a lot of guns.
Yeah.
It was just, it just sounds like it's a less maneuverable Hornet with more guns or more power for guns. So
Well,
that could be interesting.
yeah.
A heavy fighter, I don't really know. I don't know. At least in the Star Wars universe, I didn't. If I was flying a heavy fighter, I wasn't doing it to fight other fighters. I was doing it to fight capital ships.
Or transports or yeah, something
Right.
heavier. Like
Right.
that's the thing. I'm like, I don't care. I've got a Hornet. Every time
Hmm.
they come out with these, I'm like, I've got a Hornet. I don't really need that. But I don't know. A greater starting variety is not going to hurt anything for sure. When the game
No,
finally does drop.
right. You're absolutely right. And there's one more variant, which was the Misk Reliant,
Mm-hmm.
um, which it sounded kind of cool. It's a two-seater
Mm-hmm.
instead of a one. So like the Super Hornet, it's gonna have two seats instead of one as a fighter. It's supposed to be, I don't know. It's supposed to be based on some Jean tech, I guess, which
Yeah,
is
the
kind of
one that
cool.
was like kind of alien design and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't really specify what its role was meant to be or
I mean,
what it was gonna like excel at.
I think for some of these, it's the role is whatever the players decide to make it. Uh,
That's true.
it's, oh, we've decided that this is a blah blah blah, but another organization has decided it's a blah blah blah. So you know,
Right. And I suspect this will be more maneuverable than most fighters because that's what it sounds like Jean kind of based their ships on is maneuverability.
yeah, with the
So,
additional thrusters and all that. Yeah.
right, that's the big reason I bought the Jean Scout was it was billed to be one of the most maneuverable ships in the game. So
Well, yeah,
we
and
shall see.
if you can fly circles around people, you don't have to worry about getting hit as much, etc.
Right. And as of right now, the Misk Reliant is dominating the polls.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
It's yeah, not shocking at all because the other ones are kind of who cares?
Yeah.
This one's got alien tech. That sounds cool. Yeah.
Woo, aliens.
Woo. Yeah. Well, and speaking of added maneuverability, I know that recently we have the Arena Commander V.0.9.2.1. They gotta stop adding points to these. But the with that came some adjustments to the 300s, which apparently added additional thrusters and fixed weapon mounts and all that. But like I was surfing the forums and it was just still people complaining about their 300. So
Oh man.
clearly it hasn't fixed it fully. Have you had a chance
Right.
to fly your 300 since it came out?
No, I've been super busy this past week, and I have had not nearly as much time to game as I would like. Other than last night when we were able to, game with a bunch of us, I just have
Yeah.
barely had any time.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I like the 300. It looks cool. It kind of always reminds me of the Cadillac of the starships, you know.
Yeah,
But at the same time, do you really care if you own a Cadillac?
right. I mean, I have the 325A more for like show than I do for utility.
Well, yeah,
You
you've
know,
you've got your Super Hornet if you're gonna get serious.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. The 325A is more just like, all right, this is kind of like a fighter that has some, a little bit extra cargo capacity, and it's faster
Hmm.
than the Hornet, so it offers me a little bit of different variance in what I can do with it, and then that's nice. And I think it's kind of ridiculous right now because people are complaining that the 300s aren't as good as the Hornets, and Arena Commander, well, duh.
Yeah, it's
Like
not
one's a
supposed to be.
military, right? It's not supposed to be like,
Let me take
eh,
my Cessna against an F-16. We'll see which wins.
right? Exactly. It's like there, I'm gonna bring out my Learjet, and then you're
Darn
gonna
it!
fly an F-18.
Darn it!
Crap, I lost.
Yeah. Oh
You
man.
know,
My civilian ship should be just as good. Darn it. Well,
right now. That being said, I did feel that the 300 series in general were a little too sluggish anyway.
right. Like it should
So
have maneuverability. It just should never have the firepower or the armament that
yeah,
uh military Hornet should have, for
right,
example. Yeah.
exactly. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Well, and I know there are other known issues, like in their patch notes, they were talking about some of them. One of them that stuck out to me because it had the word Redeemer in it was that there are multiple objects that cannot be used, which to me means there's a lot of objects that are going to be added eventually when they can be used, you know. So
Right,
hopefully that'll be like, we can open those weapon lockers I was seeing and, get in the turrets, etc. Maybe there's some more opening and usable items that I just didn't realize when I was going through it.
right. And I think it's kind of funny that they had to come out and make an official statement on that. I just kind of assumed that was the case.
Yeah, me too. I was like, obviously there's stuff in here that they're eventually, like with all the other ships, like the Constellation, obviously there's stuff I can't use that eventually I'll be able to. Like,
Right,
I'll be able to open the fridge, I'll be able to, turn on the hot tub, I'll be able to watch the
yeah,
TV, that type of thing.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I know some of the Vandal ships they've been talking about have some missing geometry and some damaged states. So when a Vandal ship is damaged, there'll be some parts of it that are missing that should be there that aren't, which is interesting. So I wonder if that's why they're so freaking hard to hit sometimes when you blow some of their wings off. If like there's
That
supposed
could
to be
be.
parts still there that you're not seeing.
Yeah, that's probably the case. I mean, I know they've talked about in the past how it's challenging to make the asymmetrical ships work
Hmm.
in the game because of maneuvering thruster issues and other things. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this was just another kind of layer of that cake.
Yeah. Well, and when they come out with more Vandal ships, hopefully we'll also see more Vandal ships in Vandal Swarm. So, you get a
Yeah,
greater variety of ships to fight against. I think we talked about that a little last week, even. We're
yeah,
really
we
looking
did.
forward to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to kill me some cleavers. So
Well, and the Blades, too, when they get the
yeah,
multi-crewed ships, because those look pretty badass from the profile they gave.
yeah, I agree. I cannot wait for multi-crew ships.
Oh
Cannot wait.
man, you and me both. Like my ideal joygasm moment is gonna be hopping in my Redeemer with like you and somebody else in our organization gunning for me and just like going to town.
Yeah,
That's
it's
yeah.
uh
You're like, do you need a tissue? Are you
I'm
crying?
like, yes, I know.
I'm so
Tears
happy.
are coming to my eyes. I'm so happy. This is the
Yeah.
best day of my life.
Well, and some other stuff they were talking about with the multi-crew stuff. This was in the 10 for the chairman. Was actually when you have multi-crewed ships, the ship functions can be split between the consoles. So for like
Yes.
your Constellation or my Freelancer, where they got like the co-pilot and those other seats, you can actually split off like, hey, you manage weapon power, you manage navigation, you manage shields, you manage engines. Which will
Yeah,
be
and
interesting.
I think a lot of people might think that sounds boring.
Oh hell no!
Um,
If it's a
yeah. So,
sorry, I'm not one of those people. Clearly, continue.
But I know, like, when I've played the game Artemis, and I think I've talked about that in previous broadcasts.
Hmm.
It's a game that simulates being the crew of like a Star Trek ship. Anyway, like doing the other jobs, like being the engineer, the shield operator, like the way they did it, and I'm assuming Star Citizen is going to do something similar, where it's actually really challenging and it takes a high skill level to be able to manage your shields, make sure you got your shields covering the right areas, make sure you got power to the guns that are actually shooting stuff, that kind of thing. And it's actually really fun and really challenging. So I hope people aren't like just being like, oh, I don't want to be the shield operator, that sounds boring.
Right.
It probably won't be.
It'll probably be, oh, you're the reason your entire crew is still alive because you're the most
Yep.
badass shield operator in existence. Well, it's like every time I think about like the old Star Trek TV show or stuff like that, where you had the multiple people doing the multiple roles. You have like your weapons officer, your navigation, your helm, all that. It's kind of like you know some of those roles would be super interesting to try out and then switch to a different role like the next time you do something. So it's never going to be boring for you. You're never just going to be flying. You're never just going to be gunning. You could always do something new.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
So I don't know. Uh, regardless of what happens, people are going to complain. Let's just,
Well, that's
it
true.
it doesn't matter. There'll be some complaint about something, regardless. So
Very true.
well, and I know like also talking about some of the other known issues, there was like a issue with overclocking video cards is causing the game to crash for people. So
Oh.
I don't know if you saw that, but they actually recently had this is the video cards people use, and they showed the various types and all that too. I saw
Huh.
mine, it's like 2.3% of people use my video card. I'm like, oh, okay, well, not that many, but
Yeah.
it's still probably a couple thousand at that percentage. Um,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but I've now no interest in overclocking my video card, so I don't think that will be an issue with me.
Right. I haven't even seen that post. So I haven't overclocked my video card, and now I know I definitely won't be.
Well, it's only some video cards, but let's face it, as soon as you do it, it's going to crash it.
Exactly.
It's not like the game is entirely stable in its current form anyway, so
Well, right. Pre-alpha.
yeah. Well, and another thing I noted, which I decided to add to the notes because I know it would probably give you a joygasm, was the Carrack unveil is soon.
Yes, yes, I am very much so looking forward to that. I am really curious to see how this ship looks. I really liked the design of the interior of the bridge. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, and they've been
Um,
showing parts of that in Facebook too, with Sandy's posts, like here's the bridge, here's the hallway, that type of
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I liked the interior design. So I'll be really curious to see what that looks like on the outside. I don't know if I'm gonna buy it or not. I was talking about it, and
Birthday
we'll
present,
see.
yeah. Christmas
Yeah,
present to yourself. Yeah.
right.
I was on Reddit earlier, and there was a guy who made a comment about the anniversary sale ships that might be coming out, and everybody's talking about, oh, maybe this ship will be out at this price, and everybody's speculating. And the comment that stuck out for me was this guy who's like, yeah, here's my plan: is I'm gonna, buy what I can and hide the purchases from my wife.
Fortunately, I
It's
don't
like,
have that problem.
yeah, exactly. That's like I don't have that problem. Yay! And then I was sad.
Yeah. It's like, yay, aw,
Aw,
yay,
yay,
aw.
aw. Death by snoo snoo all over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and another thing they were talking about recently this week for subscriber flare, ta-da! They had the release of that cabinet with all the liquor in it for them. Um,
Right.
so apparently, from watching the 10 to the Chairman, Chris Roberts was like, "Oh, you should be able to open that and get drunk," but apparently it's not in this build. And I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome!" So guys can be like stumbling around while walking around. I'm wondering though, and this is just like crazy notion. What if you get drunk and then try and fly your ship? Like,
Oh man.
what are the controls gonna be like? Like, I don't know if you ever played GTA 4, where you like try and drive a car while drunk, and it just
Yes.
messes you up until. Oh man, imagine that, but like 3 dimensions instead. That would be
I
fun.
think it'd be pretty fun. Although I imagine if you have an Oculus Rift on
Oh
while
God,
drunk, it might get a little interesting.
talk about Vomit City. Oh my God.
I mean, even though the new development kit 2 significantly reduced the amount of motion sickness that people were experiencing,
Right.
there's nothing you could do about spinning. I mean, eventually that's just gonna make you not feel good.
You know, it'd be awesome. Somebody, and I'm not saying anybody in particular, us, wink, wink, should do a tournament where it's drunk flying.
Oh
You could
God,
only fly drunk.
that would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be amazing. Who's the best drunk pilot? I want to know.
I'm down on that. I am totally down on that. We'll have to put that one in our back pocket and
It'll be like,
make it
okay,
happen.
you have to stream it, and you have to prove that you drank and you're flying drunk, and you have
Right.
to like drink the same thing or whatever, so everybody's the same level of drunk if there's different levels.
Right. We'll go on body weight and make people drink the exact same amount of alcohol.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Uh,
Uh, the ideas, the ideas. Well, and another
and
thing
then we'll
that
have,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry to cut you off. I was just gonna say we'll have to get drunk to broadcast it too.
Oh
You know.
God, that's there's yeah, that's just that's a genius idea. I can't believe this has not been done, and like clearly this is going to catch on fire and be the next big thing is
Oh
drunk
yes, yeah.
flying in Star Citizen.
We're just way ahead of our times. That's
Oh,
just all there
clearly,
is to
yeah. Nobody's gonna do it unless they got LTI on their shit.
it. You're right.
Well, other than that, there was the Moby Glass he talked about too, which I thought was super interesting. He was talking about in the past they've talked about the Moby Glass is going to be kind of like your chat device and your friend's device and all of that, but it's also apparently going to function as a smartphone, quote unquote,
Yeah.
and that's kind of interesting. I wonder if like their in-game system is going to be good enough to replace stuff like TeamSpeak and Skype, and you can just use the in-game chat.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounded like, and I don't know if this is just people like BSing me or what. When I was browsing the Star Citizen subreddit, that in the game, like it's gonna take a while for messages to get places, especially if someone's like clear across the galaxy.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't heard anything officially either way that I can remember. And I tried to do
Uh,
some more research on it, but I couldn't really come up with anything.
on the one
So I don't
hand,
know.
I think it would be awesome for the realism factor, but on the other hand, I think since they are doing like a speed up time wise, they probably won't do that for chat. They'll probably want chat to be instantaneous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't be because you have the options outside of the game anyway.
Right. It doesn't make sense because if it takes me like a minute and I've got to wait for a delay before I can talk to you again, we're all just gonna hop on TeamSpeak, you know.
Right. Now, I know that along with kind of like communications, since we're on that topic, Chris Roberts did say that you'll have like comms in your ship that you can like talk to your crew if they're in the ship with you.
Oh man, that's gonna be awesome.
Right. And so that'll be pretty fun. And then I don't
Red
know.
alert!
Yeah, and
We're under attack!
yeah, and
Scramble!
uh, it sounded like there might be a comms officer on certain like larger ships, or even the like transports. Like there'll be one person in charge of comms as well as maybe other things as well.
Pudding will be
But
served in the commissary at 0800.
right,
That type
and
of stuff.
then
Oh, that'd be
right, and then
great.
you'll be in charge of like negotiating with other ships around you and that kind
Mhm.
of business. So that would be pretty fun. I mean, because then like if you have like a smooth talker, that adds a whole nother
Oh
dimension
yeah.
to like people you want on your crew. You just don't want somebody that's good at shooting stuff or making your shield go in the right places. Because they have fast finger movement.
Right.
You'll have to have a guy who actually can like smooth talk people.
That would
So
that would be cool.
yeah.
Like somebody who you're listening to and you're like, this is easy listening, or you know, he's just like he convinces the pirates that we're going to attack you to join you instead because he's just that suave.
Right, I'm already thinking about contacting like James Earl Jones and seeing if he's down.
No.
Oh, come on, then you had to go and ruin it with that.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I'm sorry.
uh,
No. did you ever see the video where it was a roller coaster and it was Darth Vader on it? They like
Oh
make it go
God.
up and down. You'd be like,
Oh,
no.
oh my God. I know I am not, and it makes me angry.
It made me laugh. I'm sorry, but
No, I'm sure it's funny. That point in that movie, like I
it's
busted
like,
out laughing in the theaters. I was just like, "Are you kidding?"
yeah, I went and saw it with a couple of friends of ours forever ago when it came out. And, like at that point, I was just like, I almost like couldn't have smacked my forehead harder. It hurt so bad.
You
Oh
just like
man.
want to get up and leave the movie theater,
At that point, yeah. Like overall, it's the fourth best Star Wars movie.
right? With one of the worst moments ever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ugh.
I don't know.
All right,
I
let's just drop that. We're done. Enough.
move on.
We could
Moving on.
complain about we could complain for days about the prequels. Let's just get out of there.
Well, I don't know if you saw what they were talking about with cosmic events though, as well on the 10 for the chairman, but that made me go, "Oh my God, that's great."
Hmm.
So like I'm thinking cosmic events for people that don't know is going to be, let's say there's a drought on a planet, they need water or crops or something like that that would raise the amount of food imports that they'd have to get, so there'd be a lot of food missions. Or let's say a planet's star is going supernova and they need to evacuate, so there'd be obviously evacuation missions, things like that. Um, that to me is so cool and is going to add a new layer of, and dynamic to the overall gameplay that it will just be fun. You know, like they
Yeah.
can say, "Oh, January through March is attack defend against the Vandal whatever month for this planet," and you're gonna have missions related to that.
Right, and I think it's not only is it really fun and cool, it clearly shows that they are going to be very hands-on with the game and the universe and making it work, for the players and creating the like what they want to say, like they want the players to create a lot of the lore just as much as they create the lore, and so this will give them the opportunity to create their lore and then the players to work with that. I really like that.
Well, and then the devil's advocate in me remembers when Wrath of the Lich King first came out. It was towards the end of Burning Crusade. They had an event essentially where you could turn other people into undead and they would attack and all this stuff.
Oh
The
God.
the problem with that though is they allowed it in cities. So like you could just be sitting there
Oh
minding
no.
your own business and all of a sudden you become an undead and all the guards are attacking you and all the players are attacking you. You know.
Ugh.
So it can be done wrong is the only thing I'm saying about it. That
Right.
said, as long as they don't do something stupid like that where it's like you can't go anywhere or do anything because everybody's griefing, it'll be
Right.
okay.
Right, and it doesn't sound like that's their plan. It sounds like it's more like they're just making, temporary changes to like the economy or like the environment of a star system. So I
Right.
don't think those will have nearly as big of impacts as good lord, I didn't even know that happened and I quit
Yeah, you quit. Well,
I quit Warcraft before that. So,
that was in the middle of my addiction to World of Warcraft. So I was like, that was when I was logging in every day for like a couple of hours and
right.
hated myself for that entire week that occurred. So
Can't blame you.
what everybody ended up doing was just not going to the cities then and going out into the middle of nowhere to do questing or whatever you could do at that
That
time,
makes
or
sense.
go on a raid and just stay away from the cities as much as possible so you didn't have to deal with it, which
Right.
which sucks, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
So, other than that, he did talk about unknown creatures. I thought that was such a great question. I forget the guy's name, and I feel bad, but I thought it was such a great question there, where there would be like unknown creatures on derelict spaceships, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we totally thought of that," and I'm like flashing in my head to like aliens and like us
Yeah.
docking with a ship and jumping out and like moving left and right, and all of a sudden this like weird alien creature comes out and eats somebody,
Yes,
preferably not me.
yeah. Well, that's why we'll just make our friends go first. You know,
I'm in charge, so I'm gonna be way in the back
exactly.
with the biggest
No,
gun.
it'll be really fun. I think, boarding these derelict ships because it's going to be really intense. I mean, they're going to be, dark,
Hmm.
and there's going to be no gravity,
Well,
and
and then you got like the one guy who you can have like the flashlight. You got another guy who's probably got like an infrared screen or something on his helmet, and all
right.
that too.
Yep. Exactly.
And
It'll be
like,
really cool.
you know what's gonna be is like we're gonna be streaming and we're gonna be like exploring this derelict ship and like freaking out the whole time and like checking corners and there'll be nothing on it. It'll be like
Right.
a complete waste of time. We'll spend like 2 hours exploring it.
I really hope they add in like little things that make you think you see something, but then you really don't. Turns out
Like,
there's nothing in there, and you're just like flipping out. You're like, "Oh my god, what was that?"
you know what'd be great is if they intentionally put stuff in like a coat on a hanger or something that like falls,
Yes,
and then you're like, ah,
yes.
oh my god!
Shoot it!
Scream like a girl in the middle of your Twitch stream. That would be great.
And everybody just unloads on it.
It's like that scene
Nope.
from Predator. Everybody's
Yeah.
like, he saw something. Let me join it.
Well, we just destroyed a bunch of forest.
Thank God.
Oops.
That take that, nature.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but like as soon as he said that, I'm just like, oh my God, this is it. Every time they announce something like that, I just get a little like 2-year-old in me that screams, yes, 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 over and
I mean,
over.
it's almost like he's spent the last like 10 years thinking about this game and just like writing down what he wants to do and
Probably.
just and he's just got it. He must have some like database somewhere of all the stuff he wants to do because every time people bring stuff up where they're like, what if you could do this in the game, he's like, yeah, we've already thought of that. It's
Yeah.
like, holy crap. The only thing that they hadn't thought of was that guy who was talking about in the tent for the chairman about uh, being ambassadors
Right.
or like diplomats and
I
stuff.
thought that was
And
a cool question too. Yeah.
I thought it was a really good question, and
Mm.
it clearly it took Chris by surprise too. So hopefully we see something like that maybe.
Well, I hope like there's also like a merchant profession you can go into where you or like some sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? But a middleman position where
Yeah,
you don't actually touch anything, but you do all the negotiating on behalf of both parties, which would kind of fit in with the ambassador too. That would be interesting to me.
I agree. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. Another thing mentioned was the different types and categories of fuel, which it doesn't sound like they've fully fleshed out, but they have had some like thoughts about how it should work. So you've
Right.
got, for example, your flight fuel, which is just your flying around in the system, your afterburner fuel, which will be a more specialized version of that, which will cost more, and then you also have jump fuel for going from system to system, which I think if you're managing that many types of fuels, it adds another layer to the game as well. So like when you're thinking of it as a supply officer standpoint for your fleet, okay, we've got this many fighters that only really use flight and afterburner, they don't use jump, but then all of our larger ships are going to be jumping from place to place, they need jump fuel, and when you're
Right.
calculating the cost and how you want to like handle all that, it gets to be quite involved.
Yeah, I think it's really cool stuff, and it reflects the modern world. I mean, you already have different types of fuel. You've got the different grades of
Wait, wait,
fuel
wait.
that different cars
You
need to
mean they
use,
don't
and you have to
use my car fuel when they send rockets into space?
right. As it turns out,
Crazy.
they don't. I know, mind blowing for sure.
Wow.
But I mean, on top of that, I think what else is really cool is not only you're going to have different fuel types, but you have different power systems for each different engine. You have they were saying in the GNP system thing for their engines, they're for the Starfarer, they're fission engines, they're thorium based, reactors.
Heck
So
yeah.
that's pretty cool, and I would assume that like on the Bengals and bigger ships, they're fusion power reactors.
Right.
Um, so I all that's really cool, and then then obviously you need different fuel for those too. So they've really thought
Mhm.
that out really well.
I don't know if you saw this, but did you see the thing they had on the null system? It was posted like a day ago. So it was
I
a recent
skimmed it
post.
really quick. I did not get too good of an in-depth look at it. All I know is there's a crashed Bengal somewhere,
Yeah,
or
that's
not a Bengal, but a carrier
that
somewhere.
that's what I mentioned. That's why I'm bringing it up because I thought that was that's awesome. So on null 4 of that system, like the first couple planets are pretty much uninhabitable and nobody cares. But on the fourth planet, that's where the Olympus, a human carrier, crash landed because their
Nice.
commander was incompetent, whatever. Um, so it crash
Right.
landed, and then all the scavengers showed up, and they were starting to strip, and they're like, "Wait, why are we stripping this? Let's just live here." So it's turned into kind of like a black market scavenger city on this planet over the years, which I think is pretty. Sweet. I will totally hang out there, I think, and get my black market goods from there and whatever else is entailed.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of that episode of Trigun where they show up in a ship that's still floating in
Right.
the air, and they end up crashing into the planet. But whatever. But I always really liked that episode. It was a really cool divergence from the rest of the series. We're in this like very Western,
Well,
there's sort of setting.
the thing about Trigon, though, is literally almost all the settlements are the wreckages of crash ships on that planet. So it's
That's
like,
true.
yeah, it's kind of it is kind of the same vein, though. You're right about that. Well, so like Spider, the one they talked about earlier, is like a wreckage of a bunch of crash ships, and then you've got Olympus, which is a crash carrier. I wonder if they're going to be like even more hybridized ancient vessels that people are living in now.
I would be interested to see that if like there's unknown alien ship that people have taken over, or maybe they worship it as like a holy site or something like that.
Right. Well, I wonder, like, we don't know a lot about the Vandal, but I wonder if that's kind of what their big carrier mothership is for them.
And that thing is huge.
Oh, yeah, that thing's like, what, 3 times the size of a Bengal?
It's I don't know if it's quite that big, but it's bigger than a Bengal by a
Oh,
fair
yeah.
amount.
Well, yeah, and it's subject to change, too. It's the worst part, so that thing could be even bigger.
Right.
Well, and I wonder, like, in general, what ships are coming down the pipeline in that vein, though, where you've got the bigger capital ships, because it seems like that's the trend, is they're going bigger and bigger with the ones they come out with, like the Carrack's bigger ship, the
Yeah.
Reclaimer, when they announced that, was a bigger ship. Um, a couple of the others coming out are bigger ships too. The Retaliator, etc. So I wonder if
Right. I
like
mean,
we're gonna when the Idris finally does come out, are we gonna start seeing other Corvette classes that will be available too?
I would hope so. I hope that we get more bigger ships. And because personally, I am really, really, really looking forward to the capital ship combat aspect of the game, probably more than I am the fighter combat aspect, personally.
I think that's going to take a
So,
long time, though. I'm thinking
yeah.
that'll take probably years before it gets to be viable, where people have enough credits and enough people in their organization or NPCs, whatever, to really have a full-scale, blown-out conflict. Of course, I could be wrong,
Possibly.
and like a month in, we've got that because some organization just has so much resources developed into it.
There's already some really massive organizations.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't be too surprised if we're getting pretty decent sized capital ship combat within a couple months of the like initial like alpha persistent universe release. I don't well
right.
then again I don't know how many capital ships are going to be available then. I'm going to assume at least Idris's are, so it might just be like massive Idris versus Idris battles,
That would be
which would be fun as
interesting.
hell.
Oh yeah,
But
totally. We
um
got to steal one of those or get enough money to buy one.
I know I was going to say there's a sale coming up, and even though they said they won't be selling the Idris P, which
No,
is like the
Ben
top
Ben
end.
Lesnick, I think, pretty much said no, we're not selling Idrises
uh
anymore. I think that's
Dang it.
I think that's what he said. But if I'm wrong, I'm happy I'm wrong. But I'm still not gonna buy one, even if it is $800 instead of 1,000 or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I'm not buying one either. I wish I could, but there's just no way.
Well,
Um,
I can afford it, but I
right.
can't justify that kind of expense even to myself.
So that all that being said, what are you thinking is going to end up in the anniversary sale?
So actually, Reddit had a pretty good couple of like posts on there under
Hmm.
the our subreddit. One of the ones was mentioning like maybe we'll see the 300 or the 350R on sale again. The Caterpillar might be on sale. Gladiator, the Carthu All might be on sale. Merchantman, Retaliator, Starfarer, all those new ones that were re
Yeah.
really talked about recently. We might be seeing those as like a LTI, and maybe they'll come back out with some of the other ones that have already gone off, like the Constellation Phoenixes. They might bring back that type of thing.
Now, actually, I just read Ben Lesnick said no more LTI. There will be no LTI in this sale. So
Oh,
no LTI. Although there's a
ooh,
lot of people who are salty about that. I could care less.
Well,
But what he did say was that instead of the normal 6 month insurance, you get 2 years.
2 years. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I
Like,
mean
well,
that's pretty good.
here's the thing about the LTI is it's only on your main ship anyway. It's not on any of the upgrades that you're gonna put into it. So,
Right.
you know, boo hoo, you're gonna have to pay for insurance, but uh, the way I look at that is it's like when you have to pay for repairing your stuff in any other MMO as it gets damaged. It's the
Yep.
same thing. It's gonna be a negligible cost that once you're into the game far enough, you don't even notice.
Right. To me, people make too big. It's a concept thing for LTI. People just have it in their head that, oh my god, unlimited forever, and then they don't really grasp the concept of how it's not as amazing as they're making it out to be in their minds.
Right.
It's more of a perception than it is, based in the reality of what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So the one ship that I'm pretty sure that they're going to put on sale that I'm even thinking about buying is the Caterpillar, but I was kind of hoping to hold out
Well,
um, for
uh,
the other ship they mentioned in the 61 million, the
mhm,
Aspera, I think it was called,
right.
which is the based on the Tavaran technology as a boarding ship. I want a boarding ship, so I'm just trying to decide if
Well, and
I want the Caterpillar or
I was thinking about what the Tavaran like strike me as. They're kind of like the Klingons.
yeah.
You know, they're the Klingons of this universe. Where
I want a bird of prey, so let's do it.
I wonder, are we gonna have cloaking? That's an interesting.
Hmm.
Are we going to have like a full blown alien tech cloak that's out there on certain ships? Now that you're
I can't.
bringing that up.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking. I can't remember them saying one way or another if they'll have full on cloaking.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, there's tons of sensor masking that they're planning on doing.
Right.
So I don't know. I kind of hope not.
Yeah, cloaking's always been gimped. Like, when you played, I don't know if you probably never played Star Trek Online, but I played it for a little, and there was the PvP aspect between Klingons and the Federation. When I was playing with some friends of mine, we'd all just hop in our birds of prey, cloak, fly with each other to behind a Federation ship, uncloak, and just unload on them. It was
Right.
complete one-sided mayhem destruction is if you got any kind of like talking back and forth, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Hmm.
It's just not fair.
Right. Well, to be honest, the only Star Trek game I ever played was what was it called? Starfleet Academy, I think. The one where it was like a third person view of your starships
Oh,
and you
yep,
got
yeah.
up to like three to control and you could, and you managed your ships that way. Which was a really, really fun game. I loved that game.
Hmm.
But that's actually the only Star Trek game I ever played, to be completely honest.
What would be
My
interesting?
nerd cred just went way down.
Oh, what would be interesting is the Orion. I wonder if they'll come out with that too. The mining
Oh, I
one.
didn't. Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Like I was just thinking like what are the other ships that are out there that we haven't really even seen like a concept picture of yet, and that would
Right.
be the Orion, we got the Hull C, all
That's
these other
right.
ones that are on their ship stat page, but not visible to us in even like a concept art status.
Right. I'd be surprised if those go on sale. I'm almost convinced the Carrack's going to go on sale at some point.
Hmm.
And I guess they did say that at least one or two ships that will be in the concept phase will go on sale. So maybe
I'm
maybe we'll get an Orion or a Hull C.
I'm betting a Carrack is gonna be one of them though, just because they said the Carrack was so close to being,
It has
out.
to be. I'd be extremely shocked if the Carrack was not one of the ships.
Yeah. Well, all I really care about is eventually when my reclaimer comes out and I can just walk around it. Because it's such a massive ship.
I
Um,
know.
it'll be interesting, and like especially when I get it in a hangar, I can compare it to my other ships that I own.
Yeah, I'm excited to see some of the bigger ships start showing up because right now the biggest one in there is the Constellations.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Well, and non-Star Citizen related news, you had mentioned earlier that we were gaming the other night. Um,
yep.
I mentioned it the other week. We picked up a game called ZMR, Zombie Monsters Robots, and your first reaction to that title is probably correct. for what the game's about. It's a Gears of War style shooter where you run around and kill zombies, kill monsters, kill robots, or you can fight each other and you can play as zombies, monsters, and robots or mercenaries, and it's just mass chaos and it's fun.
Yeah, I got it after you recommended it, and we played some of it. I streamed some of it the other night. I think it's still hanging out in my previous broadcast on Twitch.
It's not
If anyone
anything
wants to go and
amazing.
no,
Yeah,
it's fun. It's not like revolutionary or you know something that I would say is like a must get. But
right.
if you're looking for a free to play game that you can play with your friends and just mindlessly kill zombies and monsters and robots and
Mhm.
have a pretty good time, it's a solid game for that.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Well, and I've been looking for a shooter that's just a mindless run around shoot stuff for a while. So,
Yeah, something that we can just kind of decompress on. It's not like Counter Strike or
yeah, Twitch
Halo,
gaming or yeah, Halo.
right?
The problem with us playing Halo is we're way too competitive with Halo since we used to be competitive Halo players. That
Right.
so like we hate the fact that we're not at the same skill level we used to be, and we just get ticked off every time we lose.
Yeah, it's true.
Unless it's the people we
Very
feel
true.
we're like legitimately skilled.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's why I'm hesitant to buy the anniversary collection
Hmm.
and get an Xbox One as well
Yeah.
because I know I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna get like super frustrated that I'm not nearly as good at Halo 2 as I used to be, where I could like BXR at will and
Right.
could play midship and just dominate. But
Yeah. Like that's the thing is like now we're getting to the stage where it's not even the same feel of a game anymore, just because it's been so long since we played it like that. So
right,
yeah,
right. I can pick it back up pretty quick, but you know, you never played 3 as much as I did. I played an absurd amount of
yeah.
3.
I played two, I'd say the most, and then I played the one that came after three. God,
Reach.
Reach. Thank you. The one that
Yeah,
played Reach. I played Reach the next, but I never played him anywhere near as much as I played two. Either
right.
one. I didn't like three. I did not enjoy three as much as two. Like I loved two so much, and in my head, two was like the perfect Halo game. That like all the ones that came after it just don't stack up.
I mostly agree. I thought 2 was better than 3. I thought Reach was pretty solid. I thought Reach was better than 3. Um, but yeah, I agree. I really liked 2 a lot, even though I didn't play as much of it as I did 3 because I
Right.
was playing on a competitive Halo team for 3. So
Yeah. Well, and when you guys were playing that was about when I picked up doing World of Warcraft, which is why I
yep,
disappeared for those years.
exactly. Yep.
Where's Link? I think he's played WoW again. Again?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, all right, well, we're gonna form a Halo team, and without him, and
Yeah.
good luck.
Well, it was like I'm like I can't donate 4 hours a night to Halo, guys. I'm donating 6 hours a night to World of Warcraft. Oh, it was a problem. I'm in
Yep.
recovery. I'll never
Right.
go back. Well,
Yeah, I have some coworkers who've started playing World of Warcraft again,
tell him to
and
get
they've been
out.
trying to talk me into it, and I'm like, no,
No.
I'm done. I'm never going back.
Well, like the thing that did it for me was when they made all those changes at the end of Wrath of the Lich King, and I've talked about this with you before, where they pretty much like all the raid end items they started giving away and just like doing normal heroics or like an equivalent to them. So I was like,
Right.
why did I just spend 2 years, forming a 25 man and leading and doing all this hard work to get the cool items when you're just going to give them all away for free?
Yeah, that's super frustrating.
Which is why I was just like, I'm done, I'm out, I quit. And
I don't
that's
blame you.
that's what ended it for me. So,
Don't blame me at all. So one last thing that I wanted to talk about, just to kind of like talk about some other stuff, was I watched Macross Plus this past week. It's a 4 episode OVA anime, and what's really interesting about it was it's the guy who did Cowboy Bebop, Shinichiro
oh
Watanabe.
God,
It
as
was
soon as you said the
his,
guy who did Cowboy Bebop, I'm like, of course
yeah,
you watched it.
of course I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was his first directorial debut doing anime.
Hmm.
He was a co-director along with the guy who did the original Macross. This
Cool.
was actually the first official sequel
Hmm.
to the Macross original series,
Hmm.
and it's a really good series actually. It's really cool to see like all the little things where I'm like, oh, so like this scene is almost identical to something that was in Cowboy Bebop. Like I can totally see Watanabe's influence here. You know, the opening intro to the whole show is like a just kind of a somber sort of no speaking. It's just the characters doing stuff in
Right.
their past before it actually takes place in the show with some really beautiful music playing over it. And another cool thing about this show, the same lady who did the music for Cowboy Bebop did the music for the show, Yoko Kanno,
Okay.
and the music is just great, just really really good. And it follows the same sort of Macross storyline where there's a love triangle. Unlike the original Macross, which was two women kind of in love with one guy, this one's two guys in love with one woman. And she works for a Vocaloid, which are 3D computer generated
AI.
pop
Yeah.
stars,
Yeah.
right? Like Hatsune
Like
Miku.
Tupac.
Yeah, Tupac. Oh no, that's
Oh.
pretty good. Oh, that's good. No, but like Hatsune Miku is one who was actually on David Letterman a couple months ago.
Right.
But anyway, so it's pretty cool that they like predicted that the Vocaloid thing would be a thing. Um, but anyway, I don't want to give away too much. It's really good. Has some good action. A really good plot line. Really diverse, interesting characters, and it's a solid watch. So I would recommend watching the original Macross first, just so you kind of get
Well,
uh,
do
initiated
you
in the
need to
universe.
though? Because like my introduction to
No,
the Gundam stuff was Gundam Wing, and I'd never seen any other Gundam
well,
before Gundam Wing. So,
I could talk about why that's okay for a little bit, but I won't.
well, I have
Um,
since then seen the other Gundam stuff, so I understand why
right.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, but like you don't always need to for a lot of these animes that are like reimaginings. Like you look at, for example, like Dragon Ball GT. You don't really need to have watched Dragon Ball Z to watch Dragon Ball GT. It helps, but it's not necessary. Like everybody who grew up in the States watching Dragon Ball Z, nobody had seen Dragon Ball the original.
Right. That's true.
So
That's true. And I would say that's the case for Macross Plus. You really don't need to have seen Macross. It helps just to understand a few of the things that might not make sense in terms of like unexplained events that happen later in the series.
mm,
Mostly the last episode. But other than that, yeah, you really don't need to watch it.
man, that sucks because like I feel like I should watch the entirety of Macross first. I think I watched like only the first two episodes of Macross and that was it. And then I stopped watching it. But I feel like before I could ever watch any of the subsequent ones, I would need to go back and watch that whole series.
So I've seen the original Macross. The thing with it is it doesn't really get good until the second half of it. The
Ooh, no
first
wonder I
half,
stopped.
quite frankly, is bad.
Yeah,
Like I can't stand it. And then like I just powered through it because I bought on a whim. It was on sale for like $10 on Amazon. I bought
the whole
whole
series.
Macross,
Oh
the whole
God.
series plus the movies.
Oh man, rough.
And yeah, so the first half of it, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna watch this. I'm just gonna power through it,
Mm,
and then I can say I watched it. You know, just to say I've watched one of the classic anime series. But
yeah,
then halfway through it, I'm like, this is getting really good. And then at the end of it, I'm like, this was really really good.
yeah, but it
So
only took like 40 episodes to get there.
no, it's only
Oh,
26.
I'm sorry, it only took 26 episodes to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely worth a watch. You know, if you have like a lazy, Sunday and you got nothing else to do and it's like snowing outside and you can't go anywhere.
Hey,
So
I've got a lot of PTO coming up end of the year.
there you go.
Anime after anime after anime. I come back to work and it looks like just giant bags under my eyes. All right. Well,
Well, so we should real quick maybe talk about next week. Are we gonna get together in person since you're coming back to the home
the
base?
home base.
Yeah.
So next week I'm on the fence about it. I could come back, or I could just wait another day and record like we normally do.
Okay.
It's up to you. The one downside I thought about coming back is just FYI, in case anybody wants to kill me out there listening, I am deathly allergic to cats, and Paper Thin
That's
has
a
a
good
cat,
point. That's a good
so I
point.
would have to be on either a ton of drugs, in which case I'll sound bad, or I'll be super stuffy, in which case I'll sound bad. Either way,
I hadn't
we'll
thought
work
about
something
that.
out. We'll talk more about it, but
All right.
maybe next week will be a special. edition of us in the same room talking about stuff and nerding out.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll work it out.
I'll probably come back just for the sheer giggles of, nerding out in
Well,
public.
we could always record it at your parents' place.
That's a good point, yeah. And just have my parents in the background yelling to each other because they can't hear. What? What'd you say?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for everybody for joining us, and that's this week's episode of the Flight Deck. We'll see you next week.
Peace.